Physio here. In today's video, we're going to cover some simple ideas for rotator cuff rehab. So a strain or injury to the rotator cuff is often characterized as sharp or dull achy pain around the shoulder. Sometimes it can radiate into the upper arm as far as the elbow, but typical presentation is pain in the shoulder itself with some minor radiating. If you've already had imaging for your shoulder and been told that you have a rotator cuff tear or a tendinopathy or tendinitis, not to worry. In most cases, it can be a non-surgical intervention with conservative rehab. When it comes to rotator cuff tears, they're far more common than people realize. There's numerous studies looking at people with or without shoulder pain. Oftentimes, even in the group of people without any shoulder pain, rotator cuff tears are fairly common. So even though your shoulder might be pain-free, as you age, it's more and more likely that imaging such as ultrasound or MRI might come back with the finding of a rotator cuff tear. Of course, in most cases, this is nothing to worry about, as the image simply shows a previous stress or strain to the rotator cuff and doesn't necessarily dictate current pain or function, as you can have a rotator cuff tear and be completely pain-free. The first part of rotator cuff rehab is we want to make sure we have full range of motion. So if you're limited in range of motion, that's definitely one thing you're going to want to address first. So the first exercise we would do is something called a wall walk. So simply you're just kind of walking your arm up as high as you can to work on that range of motion. And then coming back down. So of course you don't need to force this. We just want to gradually start to improve that range of motion. Whether or not you do or don't have full range of motion yet, the other thing we can start doing is a variety of isometrics. So if you have pain kind of lifting your arm above your shoulder, one thing you do is simply some distraction. So in this case, I'm just going to grab this post and I'm simply just going to lean back. So by leaning back, again, I'm putting load onto my rotator cuff. Although it seems like I'm fairly relaxed when I'm leaning back, the rotator cuff is working and doing something in this position. So you do it facing forward, and then same thing, you do it facing to the side. So again, just kind of getting some distraction through my shoulder, and the rotator cuff is working to kind of keep congruency of that joint. If you do have full range of motion, then the thing you might want to consider is doing some hangs as well. So again, coming onto the bar, and we're just hanging there. So again, we're just strengthening our rotator cuff, especially in this overhead position. The next simple exercise for a rotator cuff injury is an isometric lateral raise. Where your pain starts, you're going to want to kind of work within that range of motion. So in this case, if my pain was kind of above shoulder height, I'd want to stay somewhere just below shoulder height, just to avoid irritation. So all we're going to do is we're going to raise it out to the side, and from here we're just going to try and hold for a few seconds. So 1, 2, 3, and then slowly back down. So again, repeating this. 1, 2, 3, and slowly back down. So now the last exercise in this basic rotator cuff rehab program, we're just going to get a band, some weights, what have you, and we're just going to do some heavy rows. Any motion going through the shoulder is also going to be strengthening the rotator cuff. So in this case, I just have a heavy band, seated back a little bit, and I'm just going to do a basic row. So there you have it. So those are just some basic ideas to get somebody started on their rotator cuff rehab. The most important thing when it comes to any type of tendon injury, such as tendons of the rotator cuff, is you always want to give enough rest in between stress. So if I go through my rehab program today, I'm usually going to want to give it 2 days rest before I go through it again. The reason for that is research shows that it takes anywhere from 48 to 72 hours for the tendon to recover from a bout of stress to its peak recovery. I hope you found that useful. Again, if you enjoyed that video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below.